So, I never understood what the term guilty pleasure meant. At least in my generation, every niche interest has a Discord server, a Tumblr bitch gifing every scene, and 5 TikTok audios that were circulating at any given moment. The stereotypical guilty pleasure media is Spice Girls, and yet I've never met a single person who doesn't know all of the words to Wannabe, nor do I know anyone not willing to sing it at the drop of a hat.
Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Things that my friends lovingly give me shit for usually fall more along the lines of, why do you like this thing? Straight men like this thing. A la Game of Thrones and Star Wars. The guiltiest of my pleasures is Drag Race, that little fracking competition that's won more Golden Globes than Succession. But the pleasures were never truly guilty because nobody I knew ever made me feel guilt for enjoying them. It's just a weird niche interest that you have, but hey, even if your IRL friends aren't into it, there's 100% someone online that you can interact with about it. Then I watched The Bold Type.
How many people have you guys slept with?
4.
28. Makes sense. Here's 2.
For those of you who have better taste in television shows than I do, The Bold Type is a show that premiered in 2017 on ABC Freeform, formerly known as ABC Family. It follows 3 millennial girls, friends who work at Scarlet Magazine, which is comparable to, Elle magazine, I think. I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of magazine reading beyond, the Vogue website that I stalk when I want to see pretty dresses that I can't afford. So these characters, Jane, Sutton, and Kat, spend 5 seasons more or less being good capitalists on their various career paths. Jane's a writer, Sutton wants to be a stylist, and Kat is the social media director. Oh, also Jan from The Office is there as the editor-in-chief. Yeah, it was weird to me too, but go with it. So this show kind of hinges upon talking about social movements. From the Me Too movement, which is a huge focus of the show as its cast is almost entirely women, to things like hiring formerly incarcerated people, to understanding your own sexuality. The problem is that it's also, clearly written by millennials, and every once in a while there's this really weirdly out-of-place product placement or cameo, and you're like, oh, that's right, mega corporation ABC, owned by the Walt Disney Company, is steering this ship. And, for the most part, I was kind of fine with its, not actively shitty, but not nearly as groundbreaking as it thinks it is politics, and I was content to just quietly enjoy the show. And then this line from episode 5 of season 5 happened.
Now it's time to make the corporation work for you.
I don't like that.
No.
I don't need it.
So, for a bit of context, Kat, the best character on the show, do not at me, has long since been fired from Scarlet, and she's trying to put together a new digital magazine to talk about social issues, when Jan from The Office basically offers to pay for the idea and run it in Scarlet. The conflict of the plot revolves around Kat not wanting to give up creative control, which is, a valid point, seeing as she got fired from her first job there because she wanted to run a story about one of the board members who was super homophobic, and she ended up having to move out of her house because of it. And yes, in the show, the board member was fired, but in the episode, they bring it up as if that's the end of the discussion. As if there weren't other board members that let this happen versus just one bad apple that got dealt with. And well, that's kind of the issue with the politics of The Bold Type. It talks a huge game about systemic problems that need to be addressed and how each of the characters needs to do their part, yet Kat is painted as a control freak for not wanting to merge her work with Scarlet, and when she eventually does decide to give in, it's solidified with that one little line.
Now it's time to make the corporation work for you.
In her video essay, Woke Disney, Lindsay Ellis criticizes the way that despite the veneer of wokeness that Disney has laid over their live-action adaptations, they do very little to criticize the power structures in play, just the people who are running it. In her example of Aladdin, the issue is not the tradition of birthright monarchy itself, nor the idea of the Sultan having complete and total control of the kingdom. It's just that Jasmine can't be Sultan. After all, she hung out with Aladdin and the poor for 3 whole days. She totally understands the plight of the working class now. Everyone say hello to the new Disney princess, Comrade Jasmine. I mean, Shit, never mind. Never. I'm so Ghost of Walt Disney. I'm sorry. I promise. I love capitalism. Money. So yummy. Everyone, today's video was sponsored by Squarespace, Raycons, and HelloFresh, and please. So, in the world of the bold type, the issue of censorship could never happen again because they fired that one board member. They're the good magazine, after all. Never mind that the advertisers' interests are a huge focus of the season that scene is in. It's okay, Kat. Make the corporations work for you. Female CEOs are the way to go. You get them, girl boss. Wake, grind, sleep, repeat. Alright. So, I just spent a lot of time ragging on the politics of the show, that one line especially. The only issue, that line was from season 5, which means that I've watched 5 seasons of the show. And it's not a case of they've never said some bullshit before now. Trust, there are 1,000 things I roll my eyes at every episode. But I can't stop watching. I truly was never going to mention watching this show to the real world, and it's never really crossed my mind why. I mean, I joke about getting a Carlisle Cullen knuckle tattoo with my friends. Often. For the uncultured in the room, that's one of the many hot dads from Twilight. So, why am I willing to talk about Twilight, the notoriously horrible, trashy romance books with my friends, to the point of making my roommate binge watch them with me the first week we lived together, but not the bold type, a seemingly more progressive, more socially aware, better made show? Well, I think that the distinction between Twilight as a guilty pleasure and the bold type as a guilty pleasure lies in the sincerity. Like, Twilight is at its best when it's at its worst. If I were to list off the most iconic moments in Twilight, it would be, in this order, Arrow doing that weird fucking laugh he does, Jasper kicking someone's head off, Bella's spine doing that, the reveal of CGI Baby, Hold On Tight Spider Monkey, and all of New Moon because that's the best Twilight movie, don't at me. The worst thing for Twilight to be is boring. Eclipse, I think, is the peak of this because that's the one that just takes itself way too seriously to have fun except for a handful of times. The series is a bingeable guilty pleasure because when it's its most pleasurable, there's guilt. It knows what it is, and it doesn't let that slow down its roll with its ridiculousness. I mean, dare I even call it camp?
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It's the same reason I couldn't tell you a single ballad Rachel Berry sings in all of Glee, but I could list off 5 of my favorite jokes off the top of my head from memory, my favorite being this one.
Amazing.
Gay!
Gay.
Gay.
Oh my gosh, I opened my mouth and a little purse falls out.
Okay.
How did that get in there?
The tongue-in-cheek camp of a show that's cringy is what can take it from a kind of shitty and embarrassing guilty pleasure to something that you have viewing parties of with your friends so you can all throw popcorn at the screen. Hello, Rocky Horror! So, we've unpacked why the bold type is a true guilty pleasure, not a shareable one. The cardinal sin of anything, sincerity. But, well, why bother watching it? I've already said I don't particularly care for what it has to say on issues like corporations censoring their fucking news. And if I'm honest, I only really care about 2/3 of the main 3 girls. Sorry, Jane. So why the fuck did I stick around for 5 seasons? Through relationship drama that I didn't care about, plot lines that mattered not at all, and whatever the fuck they were doing with the Alex storyline. I don't know. That's the answer that I have. I don't know. Something about it is just fun to me. Maybe it's because I get to live the vicarious fantasy of being able to afford rent in Manhattan, the fantasy of having a mostly healthy work environment, the pretty dresses. It could be any one of those. I don't know. I really don't. And like, isn't that enough? Like, I don't know. I like it. Like, I was content with that. I truly was. I was gonna let this 5th and final season fade slowly into that good night and just never talk about the show, but
now it's time to make the corporation work for you.
God, I hate that line. I hate that fucking line. So it's a wonder that I don't just quit the show, right? Like, the easy answer to my problem is just to stop watching it and, like, not let it take up space in my head. But, well, I don't think that's the way we should handle things we don't like, right? Just ditching them and pretending they never existed in the first place. It's unrealistic, especially considering that I'm well into the sunk cost fallacy when it comes to this show. It's more obvious with things like Twilight or GLEE, but there will be cracks in any media you consume, and you can either go the Twilight route and make it a public event to hate them for that, or you can make it a real guilty pleasure experience and let those cracks simmer. Because those issues are why The Bold Type is a show I didn't feel like I could share with my friends. Today, there is such an emphasis on binary when it comes to things that we enjoy. You either like it or you don't. You either agree with it or you don't. It's either good or it's bad. You either love it or you hate it. Or in the rare case of things like Twilight, you love to hate it. Which, well, that's just something I can't get behind. I don't think it's fair to any kind of media to expect to like 100% of it, otherwise it's bad. I think you should be able to watch something and like it, even if there's maybe a plot line or a scene that didn't work for you. Instead of focusing on whether something is good or something is bad, we should focus on the parts of that we think are good alongside the parts we think are bad. They coexist, they're not mutually exclusive. So, I like The Bold Type. There, I said it. It's not good and it's not bad. I just like it. I like the character of Kat a lot, and I don't like the subplot about Jane having the BRCA mutation. I like the episode where we find out that two of the characters have different stances on gun rights because they had different upbringings, and I don't like the character of Sage. I like the running bit about Jacqueline's assistant being obnoxious, and I don't like this line.
Now it's time to make the corporation work for you.
I like this show, I just don't like everything about it. That's okay.